On August 1, 2025, Boeing halted all commercial aircraft production, a move that sent shockwaves through the world economy. The once bustling assembly lines, now eerily silent, became a stark symbol of a new era of uncertainty. For decades, Boeing had been a cornerstone of global aviation, its jets connecting continents and powering international commerce. But overnight, the hum of progress was replaced by an uneasy stillness. This wasn't due to technical issues or a lack of demand, but the direct fallout of a spiraling US-China trade war. Tensions that had simmered for years finally boiled over, with both nations imposing crippling tariffs and restrictions on each other's industries. Boeing, deeply intertwined with both American innovation and Chinese manufacturing, found itself at the epicenter of this geopolitical storm. The shutdown exposed the fragility of global trade networks. Boeing's silent assembly lines became a powerful image of economic nationalism, overtaking decades of globalization. Supply chains that once spanned continents were suddenly severed, leaving parts stranded and workers idle. The world watched as one of its most iconic manufacturers ground to a halt, raising urgent questions about the future of international cooperation. Years of escalating tariffs had finally erupted into a full-blown economic conflict, with Boeing caught in the crossfire due to its reliance on the Chinese market for both sales and critical components. The aviation giant, once a symbol of American ingenuity, now found itself vulnerable to the unpredictable tides of global politics. The consequences were immediate and severe. Thousands of skilled aerospace workers faced sudden layoffs, their livelihoods thrown into jeopardy. Airports around the world saw fleets grounded as airlines scrambled to adjust to the new reality. Cargo containers piled up at ports, unable to move without the aircraft that once carried them across oceans. The ripple effects spread quickly, disrupting industries far beyond aviation. Airlines worldwide now face unprecedented uncertainty. Fleet upgrades are indefinitely delayed and competition is upended as carriers struggle to maintain schedules with aging planes. The entire aviation ecosystem, from maintenance crews to travel agencies, feels the strain as the absence of new Boeings throws long-term planning into chaos. The world is now forced to reckon with the true cost of strategic decoupling. Fragmented technology standards, abandoned research and development projects, and a growing sense of economic instability threaten to reverse decades of progress. The dream of a seamlessly connected world is fading, replaced by a patchwork of isolated markets and lost opportunities. The question now looms large: how long can Boeing and the global economy withstand this unprecedented shock? Financial analysts watch nervously as markets fluctuate, and the future of one of the world's most important industries hangs in the balance. The uncertainty is palpable, with every day bringing new challenges and no clear end in sight. This crisis is more than just a headline. It marks a turning point for globalization itself. World leaders are locked in tense negotiations, searching for a way to restore stability. The very foundations of international trade and cooperation are being tested as never before. The true price of this tariff war is only beginning to be understood. As businesses struggle to adapt and economies falter, the world faces a sobering question. Can we rebuild the bridges that have been so abruptly torn down, or is this the dawn of a new, more divided era? This crisis was years in the making. What began as simmering tensions over trade and technology slowly evolved into a full-blown economic confrontation, with both sides digging in deeper as time went on. It began with US tariffs on Chinese goods in the late 2010s, a move intended to address long-standing concerns over trade imbalances and intellectual property theft. China responded swiftly, targeting American agriculture, especially soybeans and pork, hitting rural communities hard and signaling that no sector was off-limits in this escalating dispute. By 2024, the US had shifted its focus to high-tech Chinese imports, imposing strict controls and tariffs on semiconductors, telecommunications equipment, and advanced electronics. The goal was clear: to protect domestic industries, slow China's technological ascent, and maintain a strategic edge in critical sectors. China struck back with precision, imposing a crippling 200% tariff on Boeing aircraft and suspending all Chinese orders. This was a calculated blow, targeting one of America's most iconic manufacturers and sending shockwaves through the global aviation industry. This move instantly cut Boeing off from its largest overseas market, leaving hundreds of planes grounded and thousands of jobs in jeopardy. The ripple effects were felt not just in Seattle, but across the entire US supply chain. Last-ditch diplomacy failed, as trust between Washington and Beijing collapsed. Negotiators left the table empty-handed, and hopes for a quick resolution faded as both sides hardened their positions. With China accounting for over 20% of Boeing's projected deliveries, production was no longer viable. The loss of such a critical market forced the company to make drastic cuts, sending shockwaves through the American manufacturing sector. On August 1, 2025, Boeing made its historic shutdown official. The announcement marked the end of an era, as one of America's industrial giants was brought to its knees by the relentless trade war. The trade war had claimed its biggest corporate casualty yet, sending a chilling message to businesses and governments worldwide about the true cost of economic conflict. Tariffs, once simple taxes on imports, have become weapons of economic warfare. The US used tariffs to pressure China and encourage domestic manufacturing, but global supply chains made the impact unpredictable. American companies faced higher costs, and consumers paid more. China retaliated strategically, targeting politically sensitive US exports like soybeans and eventually, Boeing. These moves were designed to inflict economic pain and create political pressure. As the conflict escalated, tariffs became less about trade and more about signaling power. The US aimed to contain China's tech ambitions. China showed it could cripple iconic American industries. Tariffs now serve as tools of geopolitical leverage, fragmenting the world economy. The result, a less efficient, more dangerous global marketplace. China's strike against Boeing was calculated. Boeing symbolizes American industrial might and is a top US exporter, making it a high-impact target. Its dependence on the Chinese market gave Beijing leverage. Cutting off orders would inflict maximum pain. The timing favored Airbus, allowing China to reward Europe and divide Western allies. The move was reversible, keeping Boeing as a bargaining chip for future negotiations. China's message, "Respect our interests or your flagship industries will suffer." The fate of Boeing became a hostage to geopolitics. The commercial relationship now hangs on political decisions, not market forces. Boeing's shutdown triggered a global economic shockwave. Thousands of suppliers lost orders overnight, threatening jobs and businesses worldwide. Airlines scrambling for new planes now face delays, higher costs, or must turn to Airbus, which can't meet sudden demand. Financial markets tumbled, with Boeing stock plunging and the Dow dropping sharply. The crisis injected deep uncertainty, risking a broader economic slowdown. The shutdown shattered faith in global integration. Political risk now trumps economic logic. Companies are rethinking supply chains for resilience, not efficiency, driving up costs. The world faces a costly, inefficient decoupling. Consumers everywhere will pay the price. Behind the numbers are real people. Over 150,000 Boeing employees suddenly out of work. These individuals, who once contributed to the backbone of the aerospace industry, now face an uncertain future. Their livelihoods, once secure, have been abruptly taken away, leaving them to navigate the harsh realities of unemployment. Communities built around aerospace face devastation, with layoffs rippling through suppliers and local economies. The once bustling streets are now eerily quiet, as the economic lifeblood of these towns has been drained. Local businesses that thrived on the patronage of aerospace workers are now struggling to keep their doors open. Small businesses dependent on Boeing face bankruptcy, unable to survive the loss of their main customer. The ripple effect is profound, as each closed shop represents not just a lost business, but a lost dream and a community staple that once brought people together. The psychological toll is immense: lost identity, community pride, and stability. Workers who once took pride in their craft now grapple with feelings of inadequacy and uncertainty. The emotional strain extends beyond the individual, affecting families and the broader community fabric. Families must retrain, relocate, or rely on inadequate benefits. The decision to move away from a familiar community is heart-wrenching, yet often necessary. Meanwhile, retraining programs offer hope but require time and resources that many cannot afford. The loss of skilled aerospace workers threatens America's industrial future. These workers possess specialized skills honed over years, and their absence leaves a void that is difficult to fill. The expertise that once propelled innovation is now at risk of being lost forever. If production resumes, rebuilding this workforce will be slow and difficult. The challenge lies not only in attracting new talent, but also in convincing experienced workers to return. The trust in job security has been shattered, making the path to recovery steep and fraught with challenges. The social contract is fraying, and a generation's expertise may be lost. As older workers retire without passing on their knowledge, the gap between generations widens, threatening the continuity of skills and innovation. The human cost of this trade war is measured in broken communities and lost potential. The once vibrant neighborhoods now stand as a testament to the far-reaching consequences of economic policies that overlook the human element. The damage will echo for years. The scars left by these closures are not just physical but emotional, leaving a lasting impact on the collective psyche of affected communities. The journey to recovery is long, and the path forward remains uncertain. History warns us about the dangers of trade wars. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff of 1930 deepened the Great Depression as global trade collapsed. In 2002, U.S. steel tariffs sparked swift retaliation and were quickly withdrawn. The U.S.-Japan disputes of the 1980s led to friction and forced Japanese investment in America, reshaping industries. The lessons are clear. Trade wars are easy to start, hard to control, and rarely achieve their goals. Retaliation is inevitable and often politically targeted. Supply chains break, wealth is destroyed, and alliances suffer. The Boeing crisis shows these lessons remain unheeded. The world risks repeating history's costly mistakes. The price of protectionism is steep and enduring. The Boeing crisis is redrawing global alliances. Airbus, now dominant in China, gains leverage for Europe, while Beijing courts the EU with trade incentives. U.S. allies like Japan and South Korea are caught between security ties to Washington and economic links to Beijing. China pushes new trade blocs, accelerating the world's fragmentation into rival spheres. The World Trade Organization, once a mediator, is sidelined as great powers bypass its rules. The liberal international order is eroding, replaced by raw power and bilateral deals. Countries must now choose sides, straining old alliances. The global order is shifting, uncertainty reigns. The Boeing shutdown is a symbol of a world at a crossroads. Globalization's promise is giving way to nationalist rivalry and fractured supply chains. The US-China tariff war has triggered job losses, market turmoil, and a dangerous new era of economic blocs. History warns that such conflicts rarely end well. The human and economic costs are mounting, and trust in global institutions is fading. The world faces a choice: deeper division or renewed cooperation. Can leaders pull back from the brink and rebuild trust? The answer will shape the future of the global economy.